So my first question for you is, what is your evaluation of the leadership in the Middle East, and also how does it relate to the leadership here in the United States at the time?
Well, you have to go country by country. There's the Arab Spring has changed so much, and we're not quite sure what the leadership is going to be. Is Assad going to hang on in Syria? I don't know. I hope not. But,
right.
But I don't know that. I don't think we can influence it. It's going to be up to the Syrians to decide that. We don't know yet who the leader of Libya is going to be. We don't know really who the leader of Egypt is going to be, which is the most important country in the whole Middle East. So it's in flux right now. And it can go either of two ways. You hope that people are going to move toward democracy of one kind or another, or at least a way that lets people participate in their own government. You hope they're going to move toward human rights and a number of other values that we care about, but it's a little too early to tell. And maybe even too early to predict.
Right. So with a country like Libya or Egypt, who now the leadership is up for grabs, sort of, it's under question, should we look at that as a weakness, or sort of with optimism to instill a strong leadership?
Well, it can be either one. It's Egypt, the stabilizing factor has been the army. Now, if the army moves with the pro-democracy people, and some of the more oppressive elements of the society do not get control of the early elections.
Right.
Because we think as long as you have elections, you're all right. You're not. You can have an election and have some bad people elected sometimes.
Right.
But Egypt is the key. If Egypt is not stable, then we worry about the whole region. They're the largest country and naturally the leaders of the Arab world.
Right.
And if Egypt is in trouble, then the Arab world is in trouble.
Recently we've heard reports that the U.S. can strategically defeat Al-Qaeda. What is your opinion of this statement? Because we have seen terror cells now popping up in Africa, Southeast Asia. That's pretty concerning. So what do you make of that?
Well, Al-Qaeda has changed. No question. We've eliminated a lot of top leadership. We've pretty well driven them out of Afghanistan. There are obviously elements in Pakistan. But now we're over Yemen, Somalia. We've got to remember these are very small groups of people. Al-Qaeda is now a very small operation, probably maybe even smaller than it was on 9/11. But a few people can do a lot of damage.
Absolutely.
So we got to stay alert. But it's got to be a problem in the wild, ungoverned parts of the world, because that's where they flourish.
Right. Do you believe that homegrown terror is a growing concern or threat for Americans?
It's the greatest threat we have, because we are a large and diverse country. I don't think in numbers it's a threat at all. I think we're talking about very few people, but there are people, no question, getting recruited over the internet, and we've got to intercept that process. It takes 5-6 years between the time somebody becomes radicalized and the time somebody says, well, I'm actually going to put a bomb under my vest. And we have those 5 years, to intercept these very impressionable minds. We're going to do a better job than we've done in the past, because a homegrown terrorist with an American passport, an American driver's license, and the ability to move around the society freely is a much greater danger than these people who are coming abroad to do so.
So now I want to talk a little bit about your job as chairman of the 9/11 Commission. As we know, President George Bush appointed you, and what did you walk into the job expecting to find, or what experience were you expecting to gain, and what did you walk away from it with?
Well, I thought I'd been given a job where everybody expected us to fail, because when I actually said yes, I found out we didn't have the budget. They'd given us $3 million. They'd given other commissions of our kind 50, 60 million. We had 3. We didn't have enough time. month or so late because and the first chairman had been appointed Henry Kissinger,
right.
the first vice chairman George Mitchell, and the Hamlin and I replaced those two, so that put us off a month or so. Took another month or so to get security clearances. So we didn't have the money, we didn't have the time. We knew that the president had not been in favor of setting up the commission because he thought the Congress should do the investigating. We knew that the Congress thought the Congress should do the investigating. So both the leaders of Congress and the White House were not entirely in favor of the commission. So I looked at all those factors and the factors of presidential election year coming up where the politics were nasty.
Right.
And thought, they've set up this thing to fail.
Now, were you happy with your findings in the commission report?
No. I mean, we basically found that the United States government let us down in almost every single agency. I mean, there wasn't an agency of the United States government set to protect us that didn't fail in one way or another. And that was not a happy finding at all. There were very few heroes among the agencies. And where they were individuals. They were people who themselves are going against the bureaucracy to try and do something, mostly unsuccessfully. But no, everything from our State Department to our intelligence agencies to the immigration agencies to the federal administration agencies, all of them failed in one way or another. And the 41 recommendations we made are all designed to address those failures.
Has this changed your sort of respectability for government?
No, I've always had respect for government, but government sometimes is reactive. You know, it doesn't get ahead of things; it gets behind things.
Right.
And this was that kind of a case. I mean, we were preparing for the last terrorist attack, not the next one.
Right.
And we were caught asleep. I mean, to give you an example, when we alerted planes, when we found out that these planes had been hijacked, and we alerted the Air Force planes to get into the air and intercept them, they went out to sea because they were still fighting the Cold War. And the drills and instructions had been go out and intercept the Russians before they get here.
Right.
So they were, they flew out to sea. So it was that kind of total unreadiness for the kind of attack we were under.
And actually, you're touching upon my next question, the readiness and the preparedness. With your experience from the 9/11 Commission and the Commission report, it seems like 9/11 was a perfect storm. From the terrorist financing to their travel and the flight lessons, it's completely slipped under the radar. So do you feel that there's any chance that the United States could have prevented 9/11?
Yes. I'm always reluctant to say that because the terrorists are wily. If we prevented one thing, could they have gotten through another? But there are a number of things. I mean, they all had problems with their passports or visas. They shouldn't have even gotten into the country. If three of them had been stopped, they could, particularly if they'd been pilots, they couldn't have pulled it off. The intelligence agencies didn't talk to each other. They each had information that they shared it and put the puzzles together, they would have captured some of these people long before 9/11. They didn't share information. And you go agency after agency after agency of government, and they failed. They just simply failed. And we had a number of occasions. In diplomacy, we failed in the Clinton administration. I mean, we were trying to get bin Laden, and we couldn't convince the Taliban to give him up. So we failed diplomatically, we failed militarily, we failed, you name it. We failed every single way, and there isn't an agency in the United States government who could escape responsibility.
So to the people who, trying to make America stronger after 9/11, when President Bush did the Patriot Act, what do you say to Americans who are against that? Do you say that, this is going to, is helping your security?
Well, when you're attacked, the biggest responsibility government has is the safety of its citizens. That's why government was created. So it was natural that government was going to move in ways to make the country safer, and they did. They strengthened the intelligence agencies, they strengthened surveillance, so could know other things to prevent another attack. Having said that, the danger is that when you get in that mode, civil liberties doesn't have a voice. And what you've got to do is make sure that the civil liberties side of the argument is represented. Now, we recommended the appointment of a Civil Liberties Commission in the White House. Unfortunately, President Obama has not yet appointed its members. So it's 10 years later, we still don't have it.
Right.
But we feel very strongly about it as commission members. We still talked about it recently, and we think it's very, very important that when the Patriot Act or whatever other acts come now or in the future to strengthen us, that the other argument is presented, and there's a strong voice for civil liberties. Then you can make the determination as to how far you want to go and what you want to do. But you've got to have both sides represented. We haven't had the civil liberties side represented strongly enough, in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No?
Yes. Thank you for doing the interview with us.
Okay,
it was
thank
great
you very
talking
much
to you.
again.
Very nice to meet you.
I feel how badly.